Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was as the older brother of Kakashi? Part 2. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, so without wasting any time, let's get into the video. In the operating room, a blonde woman with a perfect curve that couldn't be concealed in her vest ninja suit gently placed her hands on the abdomen of the wounded person lying on the operating table. Her hands glowed with a healing jutsu, emitting a light green hue. Afterward, she took a deep breath and reached for the basin beside her. To everyone's surprise, the once clear and warm water turned jet black in an instant. "The poison has been completely eliminated," she announced. The blonde female ninja then unbuttoned her mask, revealing a pretty face with a hint of heroism, but also not lacking in charm. Despite being 28 years old, she still looked as if she were in her early 20s. Her name was Tsunade Senju, the granddaughter of Hashirama Senju and Mito Uzumaki. When Mito Uzumaki was the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Kurama was even more miserable than when he was captured by Madara or Hashirama. It was tied to a rock with adamantine chains and couldn't even move. As expected of Tsunade-sama. The new poison developed by Chiyo has been neutralized again. With Tsunade-sama around, Chiyo's poisons are nothing. The medical ninjas in white nursing suits in the operating room cheered and shouted. Tsunade's expression remained calm, though a glint of coldness flashed in her emerald-colored eyes. She stayed here solely due to her medical ethics as a doctor. She couldn't bear to stand by and watch a patient die. It wasn't the first time, a year ago, when something went wrong with the Senju family, she couldn't stand idly by either. If not for her intervention, many men would have died, and it would have caused a major issue for Konoha. "Tsunade, wipe your sweat," someone said, holding a towel and offering it to her. Tsunade turned to see Kato Dan, a person she had encountered frequently during her time on the front lines. She couldn't help but feel a tinge of envy toward this genin who couldn't go on missions. "No, I'm not tired," Tsunade replied, brushing away the towel with a mix of coldness and indifference. As Tsunade left the operating room, Kato Dan followed her closely. He firmly believed that with enough persistence, he could achieve anything he desired. "Master Tsunade, Master Orochimaru invites you to participate in the pre-war meeting," a Konoha Chunin reported as they approached her. Tsunade raised an eyebrow lightly and responded indifferently, "Didn't I say I wouldn't participate in any battles? Has Orochimaru forgotten?" Since the incident with the Senju clan, Tsunade had been exclusively performing medical tasks in the rear and had refrained from engaging in frontal war operations. Orochimaru, who was once her teammate and frontline commander, was well aware of this and he had never summoned her to a war meeting. "Master Orochimaru mentioned that he has a surprise prepared for you," the Konoha shinobi explained in awe of Tsunade's presence. "A surprise? What on earth is Orochimaru up to now?" I'm not sure. "Tsunade-sama, you should go and see for yourself." Tsunade pondered for a moment before heading toward the main camp in the center of the area, curious to find out what Orochimaru had planned. "If you dare to mess around, I'll pull out your tongue and tie a knot with it." "Hey. Orochimaru, you Tsunade had just stepped inside the door when she was cut off before she could finish her sentence. It felt like her next words and fury were stuck in her throat. She didn't even get a chance to see who the cowardly guy in front of her was, but a long-lost and familiar sensation rushed through her body, as if it had never left. Immediately, she sensed a rush of emotions like car lights being switched on, igniting her excitement once more. Without hesitation, she lifted her foot and forcefully stomped on the back of her opponent's leg, causing him to wince in pain. "You damn bastard. Do you really think I won't hit you? Can't you see what's going on here? And my goodness, we've been broken up for ages, haven't we?" Tatsuya seemed unaffected by the pain. After feeling that touch just now, he looked at his ex-girlfriend with satisfaction and said, "Well, it seems like you've been guarding yourself like a precious gem all these years." The intensity and waves of her emotions hadn't changed at all. As the man who had known Tsunade's body better than anyone, the legendary 106. It is even more famous than likes Madara or Ninetales. If you are a man of culture, you must know what these numbers mean. Neither too big nor too mid. Just pure soft satisfaction. "Go to hell, you jerk." Tsunade threw a punch at him, but if one paid close attention, they could notice a concealed smile at the corner of her lips. "Enough, can't you stop?" Orochimaru, who stood behind Tatsuya, spoke faintly and then teased Tsunade, "How was that for a surprise?" "Surprise? Scared me, more like it." Tsunade's anger hadn't completely subsided, but as she spoke, her lips couldn't help but curve slightly, forming a beautiful arc. Back at the camp, Hatake Sukomo, Hyuga Hiashi, Hyuga Hisashi, Nara Shikaku, and the parents of the future Konoha 12 were all puzzled. This was the first time they had seen Tsunade smile since the Senju clan faced misfortune the year before. "Didn't they break up a while ago?" Hatake Sukomo couldn't help but wonder, feeling a sense of admiration welling up within him. Outside the main camp's gate in the rear, Kato Dan, who had witnessed the whole incident, stood there with wide eyes and dropped the towel he had been holding. At that moment, he felt an indescribable feeling. "Okay, what do you two want to do? Let's talk about it after we've settled the business," Orochimaru said, suddenly reducing the smile on his face, reverting to his usual cold and indifferent demeanor, and shifting his gaze to the map on the conference table. Tsunade secretly nudged Tatsuya's side with her arm and asked in a low voice, "Why are you here? Everyone here is focused on discussing the ongoing war." She knew him well. Since graduating from the ninja school at the age of 7, he hadn't participated in any missions. He sustained himself through farming in the suburbs and hunting, never stepping foot on the battlefield. "Something happened to my glass-hearted brother, I can't just watch him go to his death, right?" Tatsuya replied, tilting his head slightly towards Tsunade. Feeling the familiar breath from Tatsuya, Tsunade's eyes flickered with a strange emotion. His words reminded her of recent rumors she had heard about White Fang. A deep disdain flashed in her beautiful eyes as she retorted, trying to make amends at the last minute. "Humph, that's an old trick. Of course, I also wanted to come and see if you've been seeing someone behind my back. You should apologize to me," Tatsuya said with a low smirk, pinching Tsunade in a sensitive spot. "You're asking for trouble. Do you know where we are?" Tsunade, who hadn't experienced such teasing in a long time, nearly shouted, but then lowered her voice, gritted her teeth, and glared at him. She couldn't bear the thought of being seen like this, it would be utterly embarrassing. "Don't worry, I'm being careful. Nobody will see us," Tatsuya said with a mischievous smile. Tsunade stomped on his foot again and hummed, "Remember, I've already broken up with you. Whatever you do won't change anything. I'll visit your place tonight and check it out." Tatsuya abruptly changed the topic. "You dare, you?" Tsunade couldn't hold back and shouted now. Unbeknownst to them, their bickering caught the attention of everyone in the camp, and even Orochimaru frowned, asking, "Tatsuya-kun, Tsunade, do you have any comments?" Whenever these two were together, chaos ensued. It had been like this since they were children. Tsunade turned her head away, adopting an attitude of indifference. Tatsuya, on the other hand, smiled more generously and said, "Actually, I didn't hear it clearly just now. Can you explain it again?" To be honest, if Tatsuya wasn't strong, Orochimaru might have wanted to lash out at him. This was also why Hyuga Heihachi, Narashikaku, and others were so shocked. Seeing that Orochimaru didn't react angrily, they were taken aback. After all, Orochimaru, one of the Sanin, was rarely this polite to a genin. Fortunately, Hatake Sukomo intervened at the right moment to mediate the situation. Now, the front line is under the command of Chiyo, and she leads the puppet troops, including her younger brother, Ibizo. Mid-sentence, Sukomo paused and continued, "The army seems entirely unwilling to fight the war though. That's because you killed Chiyo's son and daughter-in-law, Mr. Sukomo. She is completely blind in her hatred, and that led her to continue the war till you are killed," Orochimaru added. Also, the impact of the power of the one-tailed Jinchuriki's power should not be underestimated. Power of one tail. As Orochimaru mentioned the name, memories of the old man appeared in Tatsuya's mind. From the original story, he couldn't help but ask, can he fully control the power of the Shukaku? No, but he can manipulate sand using Shukaku's power. The power output is similar to second Kazekage shaman, who developed magnet style, Orochimaru said, poking her head out and curling her lips with a hoarse voice. "I'd really like to catch him and study him if I could." Tatsuya felt a bit disgusted. Was Orochimaru slowly becoming a deviant? And second Kazekage shaman was planning to call off the war, but Chiyo is still determined to fight, so he is currently guarding the rear. Orochimaru pointed to the location of Sunagakure in the leeward region. Even with Kage-level speed, it would take at least 2 days and 2 nights to reach there. So, in other words, if we manage to kill either Chiyo or second Kazekage, we can end this war, right? Tatsuya redirected his gaze to Orochimaru. Yes, Orochimaru confirmed with a nod and then smiled strangely. Which one would Tatsuya-kun like to target? Well, I think it's better to go after Chiyo first. She is on the front lines, making it easier to deal with. With Mr. Sukomo and Tatsuya-kun as reinforcements, I really can't see a possibility of losing, Orochimaru smiled. The faces of everyone present showed surprise. They could understand targeting Hatake Sukomo, known as Konoha's White Fang, but why would Hatake Tatsuya, known as the Eternal Genin alongside Might Guy, be included? However, Orochimaru's guess was wrong. Tatsuya's target wasn't a sand shinobi, but rather a member of Konoha. It was the son of a certain Hokage who hadn't survived in the original timeline. My elder brother gave you life, and now, if I take it back, there's nothing wrong with it, right? Tatsuya thought to himself. The Second Ninja World War. The day marked 6 years since the onset of the Second Ninja World War. That's right, 6 long years have passed. Contrastingly, the original Fourth Ninja World War ended in a mere 3 days, which is awe-inspiring to many. However, in reality, prolonged wars are quite typical, especially when major powers are involved. Victories and defeats fluctuate, today one side wins, tomorrow the other wins, and the cycle continues. It's the war of attrition. Attack on supplies and ambushes. The war of cannon fodders. The dynamics between major powers are inherently intricate. You beat me today, I beat him tomorrow, and he beats me the day after tomorrow. All these possibilities exist. The first 3 ninja wars were chaotic conflicts involving multiple forces, while the fourth ninja war boiled down to a battle between 2 forces. However, the more significant reason behind the shift is that the 4 ninja war was no longer conventional ninja battles, it was evolved into clashes among gods. Super Kage level power was necessary to be just a key player, but if you are just Kage level, then you can be beaten like rag dolls. Though it may seem that 180,000 people had participated in the war, the true determiners of its outcome are Naruto, Sasuke, 6 paths Madara, and 6 paths Obito. Ordinary Super Kage level fighters lack the power to single-handedly decide the outcome of such a war. Only those who reach the level where Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama stepped into the 6 paths level during their lifetimes possess such potential. And in the previous 3 ninja world wars, there were no such immensely powerful figures, which explains why this war lasted several years. The landscape is grim, with scattered yellow sand and stony ground devoid of any grassland. Tatsuya and Orochimaru, the commander-in-chief of the front, stand atop a desolate high rock at the border of the Land of Wind. And this is just a border zone, the deeper they go, the harsher the environment becomes. More than 90% of the land is deemed useless and. Contemplating the surroundings, Tatsuya muses to himself, whenever I see the terrible environments of other countries, I can truly appreciate the beauty of the Land of Fire. Orochimaru, intrigued by Tatsuya's observation, turns his head and adds, that's only natural, after all, the Land of Fire occupies the richest lands in the ninja world, thanks to the legacy of Master First Hokage. Nowadays, Konoha only knows the 3rd generation as the strongest Hokage. Who remembers the one who ended the chaos and created Konoha? Tatsuya remarks humorously. Orochimaru smiles without responding. When bored, he also read the current textbook on Konoha's history at the ninja school and noticed how Senju Hashirama's deeds were nearly ignored, while most of the focus was on the achievements of 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. Observing the tendency of academy students to idolize Sarutobi, Orochimaru almost laughed. He acknowledges its effective brainwashing effect. It appears that their Sarutobi-sensei has been labeled the strongest Hokage, and even Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama have faded from the world's memory, let alone Uchiha Madara. By the way, Tatsuya-kun, is the neck injury okay? Orochimaru inquires amusedly, noticing the bite marks on Tatsuya's neck. It is not hard to guess who inflicted them. Tatsuya raises his collar slightly, speechless. Last night, Tsunade playfully bit him multiple times, almost as if she were mad, and it left him bleeding. Humming. Hyuga under Takewa shouted loudly, his blue veins bulging on both sides of his eyes as he activated the blood boundary of the Hyuga clan. His eyes rolled in concentration. Boom boom boom. Almost simultaneously with Hyuga proclamation, the yellow sand ground beneath Konoha's army started to tremble. The vibrations intensified rapidly, reaching alarming levels within seconds. In less than 10 seconds, a colossal sand wave, over 20 meters high, surged like a raging tsunami toward them. Seeing this scene, Tatsuya's first thought was, Gaara's quicksand waterfall. Of course, according to the information Orochimaru shared yesterday, 80% of the trick was due to the current Shikaku Jinchuriki, and the ability was strikingly similar to Gaara's. In this war, the one who killed the most Konoha shinobi received the most blessings, Orochimaru remarked, maintaining his composure despite the approaching sand tsunami. Like Tatsuya, he was among the few unfazed by the imminent danger. Indeed, although Gaara's Kage level was reduced to a lower rank later on, his sand manipulation technique remained incredibly potent. A single move from him could annihilate ninjas below Chunin's elite level in seconds. This is one of the reasons why other countries refrain from invading the Land of Wind. With the presence of sand and a Jinchuriki, the Land of Wind can swiftly eliminate any invading forces. Orochimaru and his allies, having fought against sand shinobi for years, have become adept at countering Banpaku's offensive tactics. Orochimaru was prepared to use Earth style to construct a defense wall. Let me do it, Tatsuya intervened, stopping Orochimaru in his tracks. He walked up to Orochimaru and gently placed his right hand on the knife's handle. Surprised by Tatsuya's sudden initiative, Orochimaru raised an eyebrow and teased, stopping weaving hand signs. The Konoha shinobi below, who were preparing to perform Earth style with Orochimaru, looked up curiously, observing Tatsuya's actions as he pressed his hand on the knife's handle. "It's all here. If you don't do anything, it's a trip for nothing," Tatsuya declared calmly, slowly drawing the blade from his waist. Although not as renowned as his brother's White Fang, there was no practical difference between the two blades. After all, the casting technology in the Hokage world had reached an advanced level, comparable to that of the One Piece world. Orochimaru's Kusanagi sword had already reached its ceiling level. As Tatsuya spoke, the blade was 3/4 drawn. And in a swift movement, he pulled out the remaining blade. Among the other Konoha shinobi below, one thought reverberated in their minds. The black blade. With a resounding boom, the crimson and black sword energy matched the height of the sand tsunami. Possessing suffocating destructive power, the roar tore the sand sea to pieces. Tear. The deep red and black sword aura appeared to transform into a roaring wild beast in the midst of the battle. As the attack hit the sand, it tore through it like a predator taking down its prey. For about 2 seconds, a tense standoff ensued. A massive gap was ripped in the center of the quicksand waterfall, causing the sand on both sides to collapse instantly. The big gully, several meters wide and stretching hundreds of meters, lay in front of Tatsuya's attack. And in that moment of sand being cut open, an old man dressed as a monk had a drastic change in expression. He never expected his quicksand waterfall to be broken from such a distance. Though he lacked a telescope, his keen perception detected the enormous chakra presence characteristic of a Jinchuriki. Tatsuya silently pondered, could that be Gaara's predecessor, the one-tailed Jinchuriki, is he a perfect Jinchukri? Snapped. In an instant, the hands of the old man tightly closed again. A miniature Shukaku, just over 3 meters tall, extended his arms in front of him, assuming the strongest absolute defense, the shield of Shukaku. Puff. The sword energy that had pierced through the quicksand waterfall this time collided with the formidable shield of the Shukaku. The attack appeared somewhat feeble and was finally resisted after penetrating only about halfway into the shield. Although it's not a perfect Jinchuriki, it seems to have Shukaku's approval. Does this mean he has control over sand comparable to Gaara? Tatsuya remarked with a chuckle, raising the knife. The armament haki on the blade gradually faded, returning to its normal color. Orochimaru, who had witnessed the entire sequence of events, was taken aback by what he saw. What was that? Was it a secret technique of the Hatake clan? Or perhaps a bloodline boundary? Such a technique was unheard of. Even Orochimaru's Kage-level expertise was shaken, let alone the lesser shinobi present who didn't even deserve to be mentioned in the same breath as true Kage. Hey, what was that attack just now, that slash? How does it compare to White Fang? No, it might even surpass White Fang. If we're talking about long-range attack abilities, I think it might be even stronger than White Fang's. Isn't he the eternal genin? That knife, did it turn black just now? A black knife from Konoha. Konoha's black knife. Shocked and frantic voices filled the ranks of Konoha's army. Even the most compassed individuals found it challenging to remain calm. Yamanaka and Oichi gulped, the distance was immense, and yet, not only did he break through the Banpaku's quicksand waterfall, but he also forced Jinchuriki to resort to using the shield of the Shukaku. Black knife and White Fang. Fear flashed across Akimichi Choza's face as he watched the two brothers, Hatake Sukomo and Hatake Tatsuya, in awe. Nara Shikaku, the leader of the three and the wisest among them, spoke with a solemn tone, both brothers are Kage-level prodigies, White Fang and Black Knife. The rumors we heard when we were young are true. As Shikaku's words sank in, everyone present was drawn into memories of the past. Remember, that was when they had not yet entered the ninja school. They had heard about the two geniuses of the Hatake family. However, for years, Tatsuya has remained out of the public eye, and somehow, he has been crowned with the title of the Eternal Genin. Who came up with that name? Are they blind? Clearly, he is an extraordinary monster. As the sand sea on the opposite side collapsed completely, the hidden army of sand shinobi was exposed to the Konoha shinobi army. The slash just now was at Konoha's White Fang. An old woman with white hair among the sand shinobi army exclaimed with a sharp voice. In the next moment, her short arms waved and thin chakra threads emerged from her 10 fingers, each connected to a white puppet. These 10 puppets were said to be capable of wiping out an entire village near Song. White Fang. I'll take your life. The woman, Chiyo, roared and rushed forward aggressively. Calm down, sister, the attack just now might not have been executed by White Fang. Ibizo, standing behind her, tried to reason that the sword aura he felt earlier was different from White Fang's. It appeared to belong to another master swordsman, and they had to be cautious. However, the mere mention of Konoha's White Fang was enough to enrage Chiyo and disrupt her composure. She continued to rush recklessly toward her opponent. Seeing her actions, Ibizo had no choice but to give a hand signal, commanding the sand shinobi army at the rear to charge immediately. Following behind Chiyo were a few individuals with fewer wrinkles but no less determination. Tatsuya chuckled and remarked, "Hahaha, brother, vengeful women are terrifying, especially the old ones. I leave this opponent to you." Hatake Sukomo, the elder of the two brothers, gave a wry smile and suddenly changed his aura. In an instant, he turned into a white flash and appeared right in front of Chiyo. Hatake stream, lightning flash. Konoha's white fang. The man responsible for the death of her son and daughter-in-law stood before Chiyo. Her eyes turned bloodshot and her only desire was to take his life. As the two main players, Hatake Sukomo and Chiyo, confronted each other, the thousands of troops at the rear clashed. In an instant, the scent of blood permeated the entire battlefield. "Everyone, give it your all," Tatsuya calmly said while remaining on top of the high rock, observing the battlefield below. Although it appeared to be a battlefield of carnage, to him, it seemed like a peculiar spectacle. However, if one observes closely, one would notice that Tatsuya's gaze occasionally shifts towards the position of the Sarutobi clan, seemingly deliberate yet unintentional. The Hatake swordsmanship, along with the improved version of the lightning-style nature transformation on the katana, which both Kakashi and Uchiha Sasuke used in the future, is the inheritance of the Hatake clan. This forms the basis of Hatake's fighting style. Kakashi's future development of Rikiri is also heavily inspired by his father's techniques. However, it differs from Chidori, which concentrates the destructive power of the lightning style solely in the hands. Hatake Sukomo's lightning style is more akin to the lightning style chakra mode passed down from generation to generation by Cloud Shinobi Raikage, which can envelop the entire arm and blade. The power is more intense, but it also consumes more chakra. Tatsuya, watch out above. In the midst of his battle with Chiyo and Hatake, Hatake's attention shifted back to the high rocks behind Tatsuya's head, where a layer of sand clouds had formed. He shouted to alert his brother. Tatsuya, who was observing the movements of the Sarutobi clan, heard his brother's warning. With a composed expression, he raised his head and looked at the sand clouds blocking the sun. "During the war, you will die if you don't pay attention to your surroundings." The upper half of the body of Shukaku emerged from the sand dunes, and he spoke indifferently. The surrounding sand unleashed endless bullet-sized specks of sand, raining down like a storm. Sand bullets. Tatsuya shifted his body slightly, evading Shukaku's attack with the smallest of movements. The expression on the blessing's face changed suddenly. What astonishing perception and body flexibility. A sword lacking flexibility cannot become strong. Tatsuya suddenly drew his katana and unleashed a flat A backhand strike, creating a flying slash. Puff. The sand body of Shukaku was sliced in half, along with the cloud of sand floating above. However, in the next second, Benpyuku's body also turned into sand and fell alongside the sand in the air. "Sand clone," Tatsuya said calmly. Immediately afterward, Tatsuya turned his wrist, causing the sword to unleash another sword slash. He instantly hit an eyeball floating in the air, hidden among the flying sand. The cheating ninjutsu that Gaara and his father would use is the third eye. Pounded. In a dark corner of the battlefield, Benpyuku covered his eyeball. Although the third eye is damaged, it does not harm the body's eyes. But the sharp sword just now caused a momentary pain in his spirit. Such powerful perception, I've never seen anything like it before. I need to keep a little distance from him, I got too close earlier. Benpyuku thought to himself. At this moment, he is 100% sure that Tatsuya is the Konoha shinobi who tore through his own quicksand waterfall moments ago. He didn't expect Konoha to have such a powerful swordsman in addition to White Fang. Originally, Benpyuku was a long-range combat ninja, and he was not foolish enough to confront a sword ninja up close. Thinking of this, Benpyuku emerged from a dark corner of a rock, ready to quickly create distance before Tatsuya could chase after him. However, when Benpyuku, who was just about to retreat, looked at Tatsuya again, he was surprised to realize that the opponent was simply smiling at him, and then he turned his head to watch the battle elsewhere. Tatsuya showed no intention of pursuing him at all. What's going on? If Banpaku was also a transmigrator, he seriously doubts whether Tatsuya is the ninja version of Marine Admiral Kizaru. Is it appropriate for him to be so openly uncompetitive? Although the Jinchuriki has not acted, other Sand Shinobi won't ignore the living target, Tatsuya. Several Sand Shinobi swarmed up, surrounding Tatsuya from different directions and launching a siege on him. The focus of Tatsuya's eyes shifted slightly, and the blade in his hand twisted half a circle, creating an arc in the void. Puff. Immediately afterward, the onlookers on the periphery only saw the four Sand Shinobi who had surrounded Tatsuya a second ago, now with their heads separated from their necks. So strong. This was the unanimous thought of everyone on the battlefield. It was as if another White Fang had appeared. Soon after, Benpyuku noticed Tatsuya raising his head slightly and running toward the other side of the battlefield. The old man's face, full of wrinkles, was taken aback for a moment. I am standing not far away from you, why do you keep looking that way? Is it because he doesn't want the Kage-level battle to affect his own people, so he chooses to stay away from the main battlefield? But there was no time to think so much. After all, the Kage-level battle between Sand Shinobi and Tatsuya was in full swing. Chio was already struggling to resist White Fang. The black knife can only be stopped by himself. With this in mind, Benpyuku followed closely while maintaining a distance to avoid close combat with Tatsuya. However, 10 seconds later, it turned out to be completely different from what Benpyuku had predicted. Tatsuya only ran a few hundred meters, not withdrawing from the central circle of the battlefield at all, and launched another attack. But the black knife strengthened by the armed color in his hand, Tatsuya transformed into a black and white intersecting fast shadow. With its penetrating power capable of piercing through anything, he struck like a meteor. Benpyuku's expression suddenly changed, and he quickly bowed his waist and slapped his palms on the ground. A wall of sand rose suddenly from the ground. However, the defense that Benpyuku hastily constructed sand wall didn't possess the same hardness as the previous shield of the sand. It can be said that Tatsuya's attack didn't feel any resistance as he penetrated the sand wall and pierced his entire shoulder with a blade. Benpyuku endured the intense pain and quickly performed hand seals, crushing the stone ground under his feet into the sand. He immediately transformed into the arm of the guard crane in an attempt to grab his opponent. Finally, he barely evaded Tatsuya's next killer move. It's incredible, he suppressed the Jinkriki. The female ninja of the same age next to Sarutobi Shinosuke exclaimed in astonishment. Her name is Sarutobi Rai, and she often acts with Sarutobi Shinosuke. Everyone knows their relationship. Meanwhile, Sarutobi Shinosuke next to her swallowed his saliva, recalling how he had been manipulated by Danzo a few days ago and insulted Hatake Sukomo. Now, seeing how these two brothers were fighting fiercely on the battlefield, he couldn't help but feel chills all over. However, this group of Sarutobi ninjas seems to have overlooked a problem. That's the direction where Tatsuya and Benpyuku are battling. It seems they are getting closer and closer to them. Is it wrong? Tatsuya, who was pushed back by the arm of the guard crane, glanced at the tip of the katana. The blade was initially aimed at Benpyuku's chest but shifted to his shoulder. Is that the sand shield known as absolute defense? Tatsuya raised his eyes and looked at the other party, then chuckled lightly. It's quite impressive, for the first time, someone managed to counter my strike to this extent. Sand shuriken. Benpyuku didn't answer and waved the yellow sand thrown from his cuffs, which flew out like sharp knives. It's almost like fighting against another Gaara. Tatsuya's body turned into a phantom, swiftly moving back and forth between the endless sand shurikens. With his seeing and hearing ability, he can completely perceive the trajectory of the sand shurikens. Attack, perception, and speed are all at such a proficient level. No doubt, I'm facing a perfect ninja in every aspect. Benpyuku gritted his teeth. Tatsuya proved to be a formidable opponent, but there wasn't much fear in his heart. He also knew that in a close-range melee, he had no chance of winning against Tatsuya. Yet, hitting Tatsuya with ordinary attack seemed nearly impossible. So, he had no choice but to resort to large-scale attack tricks, which would consume more chakra. However, this strategy came with its own risks. If Benpyuku's chakra was exhausted or if his life was in danger, the seal might weaken. But I don't have time to think so much. The Banpaku's palms suddenly closed together. Swarming yellow sand rushed into the rocky ground beneath the battlefield, crushing the hard rock into sand that could be manipulated by the power of the guard crane. An area of more than 2 miles in radius was turned into sand. In the next moment, Tatsuya, Sarutobi Shinosuke, Sarutobi Rai, and others who were fighting against Sand Shinobi not far away felt a tremendous suction force pulling them down from under their feet at the same time. They were being dragged down. Prison sand burial. Benpyuku shouted. He rewrote the terrain into a desert and then dragged all the enemies on the sand into a 200-meter deep abyss for burial. The pressure of the endless sand left the enemies completely immobilized. Even Jinkriki Benpyuku found that this technique nearly depleted his chakra. Benpyuku had expanded the attack range by rewriting such a large area into a desert, making it harder for Tatsuya to evade with his extraordinary perception ability. Does Gaara use this to bury Kimimro's ninjutsu? And you consume more chakra to increase the attack range. Tatsuya mused to himself. Oh, I can't break free. Help. We need reinforcements. Help. The ninjas of the Sarutobi clan, not far away, were also caught by the technique of the blessing. The stronger ones struggled with the body flicker technique to break free, but the weaker ones were unable to resist and were immediately dragged into the sandy abyss. Help. Someone, please save me. The yellow sand had already buried her neck and Sarutobi Rai was in tears, reaching out her hand toward Sarutobi Shinosuke and crying for help. Rai. Shinosuke also reached out his hand toward her, trying to grasp it. This scene is reminiscent of some third-rate love movies, but the reality is not a movie. The hands of Shinosuke and Sarutobi Rai never touched as she was completely dragged into the ground by the sand. On the other side, Sarutobi Shinosuke was swallowed by quicksand up to his waist. Damn it. Rai. Sarutobi Shinosuke cried out in pain, and just before being buried underground, he stretched out his right hand to the side and bit his thumb. In the next second, he was completely buried in the quicksand. The strongest absolute defense or the strongest attack in the desert, which do you think is stronger? Withdrawing his gaze from the scene, Tatsuya, whose face was now level with the sand surface, showed no panic as he calmly asked Benpyuku. Benpyuku's pupils shrank suddenly and a strong sense of anxiety surged in his heart. Puff. Suddenly, a violent slash burst out of the quicksand, engulfed in black flames that could burn everything. It was as if Hatake Sukomo's blade had been infused with thunder and lightning. For Tatsuya, the black flame was like an extension of his armed color, blending effortlessly. This move caught Benpyuku completely off guard. Before he could react, the slash of the burning black flame was already upon him. The next thing he felt was the searing pain in his left shoulder. Benpyuku cried out in agony as one of his left arms fell to the ground, the black flame continuing to burn on the severed limb. The black flame. Hyuga Ashi and Hyuga Ashi, who had activated their Byakugan from a distance, witnessed the entire battlefield with their all-seeing eyes. Their faces turned pale with shock. They had received information from their family about a spy from Sand Shinobi who had destroyed the Hokage Rock using violent sword auras and strange black flames. Now, witnessing Tatsuya's use of this technique, they couldn't help but wonder if he was the one who had destroyed the Hokage Rock. Tatsuya jumped out of the gap created by the energy of the slash. Puff. As Tatsuya landed, a noise echoed behind him. Tatsuya turned around, his mouth slightly curved, and said, "Master Shinosuke, you're not dead yet." I saw the Great Ape jumping out of the quicksand with Sarutobi Shinosuke on his back. Ape Demon. Sarutobi Hirazen's trump card. Summoning contract. Even his students have one. Though it later became a goofy summon in the hands of Konohamaru, in its early stages, it had its shining moments, resisting the Nine Tails and assisting Sarutobi Hirazen against the reanimation of Hashirama and Tobirama. Did you use the summoning technique before completely incapacitating yourself? PSK, so troublesome. Tatsuya couldn't help but spread his hands a little. Rai. Suruma. Save Rai. However, Sarutobi Shinosuke didn't hear Tatsuya's mockery at all. After getting out of danger, he immediately jumped from Suruma's back and kneeled down at the location where Sarutobi Rai had been buried, frantically digging in the sand below. No, there is no breath below. The monkey demon felt the life force for a moment and shook his head. Even without perception, he could guess from the pressure felt when he rushed out with Sarutobi Shinosuke that there was no way someone like Sarutobi Rai, who was not even an elite Chunin, could have survived. No. I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see Rai's body. Sarutobi Shinosuke roared in pain. Sand bullets. Feeling the torrential rain falling from the sky. Suruma's expression changed suddenly and he hugged Sarutobi Shinosuke, who was crying bitterly and quickly dodged. Tatsuya also leaped in the air, then gracefully jumped twice in the air, standing nearly 10 meters above the ground. Standing in the sky. The ape demon and the many ninjas around looked at Tatsuya, who was slashing above the sky, in amazement. Is it the same technique as Iwagakure's Lenoki? Of course not, this is another skill Tatsuya has gained from the system. Shunpo in the Shinigami world evolved from the Hokage world's body flicker technique. Though both are bursts of power from the soles of the feet, Shunpo has another advantage. That it is a genuine floating in the air. However, Tatsuya's Shunpo is not perfect. After all, according to the Shinigami world's worldview, the high-level stuff of Yamamoto Genryusai and Aizen Sasuke require hundreds and thousands of years of training time. Kurosaki Ichigo, who has been a Shinigami for 2 years, surpasses these old monsters, but that's outrageous. Especially the old monsters of Bleach, they fight death battles to get stronger, but Ichigo is different. But it's expected after all his entire life was planned, so he could be the next Soul King. The speed and power are significantly improved compared to before. Tatsuya didn't have time to be shocked by others and looked down at the Banpaku who had an arm detached. On the left shoulder of the missing arm, a thick arm resembling a beast claw and a strange violet pattern appeared. That is Shukaku's hand. And the left half of the body that Banpaku gradually moved closer to Shukaku. Between the sharp teeth, saliva dripped uncontrollably. It's a partial tailed beast transformation. Not good. Shukaku is trying to break the seal inside Banpaku. Ibizo, the think tank of Sand Shinobi, saw the state of the Banpaku, his face changed drastically, and he shouted. SEAL team. Stop the sharing of chakra between Banpaku and Shukaku. If you continue, once Shukaku comes out, he will launch an attack regardless of the enemy or us. Although Jinchuriki is sent to the battlefield as military weapons, the situation could become chaotic if the tailed beast fully takes over. In order to prevent a potential rampage from Banpaku, the senior management of the Sand Shinobi had prepared a sealing team in case of emergencies. Being prepared for such situations was common not only in the Sand Village, but also in other villages like Rock and Mist. The opponent is in chaos due to the loss of control of the tailed beast, Orochimaru said, having previously been engaged in battle with a young Sand Shinobi who could control sand with magnet style. He then suggested, now is the perfect time to launch a decisive attack. However, Tatsuya poured cold water on Orochimaru's enthusiasm by cautioning, no, we can't do that. To Orochimaru's surprise, Tatsuya continued with a different perspective, if Shukaku comes out, he will launch an attack, regardless of whether they are enemies or allies. It would cause too much damage to Konoha. Orochimaru found it hard to believe that Tatsuya would care about Konoha's losses. He suspected that Tatsuya had his own ulterior motives regarding Sarutobi Shinosuke and other Sarutobi clan members. Indeed, Tatsuya had a plan in mind. By involving Banpaku in the conflict and attracting other Konoha shinobi to their location, he had hoped to use large-scale attack ninjutsu to eliminate Sarutobi Shinosuke and his team. However, Sarutobi Shinosuke's summoning of the Ape Demon changed the situation, making it impractical to attack the Konoha team directly. After all, the probability of the Ape Demon escaping is too high. While Tatsuya found the fight with Banpaku interesting, he had no desire to take on the entire Sand Shinobi force. But he also saw some benefits in the situation. With Sarutobi Rai dead, he knew that Konohamaru would not be born this time, referring to the inconsistency in the manga where Konohamaru's birth was skipped. Deciding to retreat, Tatsuya signaled to his brother, Hatake Sukomo, who also sheathed his katana and ordered their team to evacuate. Orochimaru, who had grown more interested in mastering ninjutsu, didn't oppose Tatsuya's decision and ordered his team to follow suit. The seal of Shukaku was cracked because one arm of Banpaku was cut down by Tatsuya's attack. Although Shukaku recognized Banpaku, recognition and willingness to stay in a Jinchuriki's body are two different things, as seen with the 8 tails and 9 tails later on. Shukaku's attitude towards Banpaku is, at best, not irritating. Once there is a flaw in the seal, there is a chance to regain freedom. Shukaku will give up Banpaku's life without hesitation. The Sand Shinobi put in a lot of effort to pull the Jinchuriki back from the brink of a rampage. The young man with upside-down black hair who had previously fought Orochimaru's side. If Tatsuya were here, he must be able to guess his identity. The future third Kazekage. Turning his head to look at the Konoha army, which had long since retreated, he said in disbelief, they just retreated like this? When Shukaku was on the verge of breaking out, he was scared into a cold sweat. Everyone among the Sand Shinobi thought that Konoha would seize this lucky opportunity to suppress the entire army. However, they retreated. People among the Sand Shinobi couldn't figure out what Konoha wanted to do. In any case, it is undoubtedly a good thing that they did not continue to attack, Ibizo said. However, the mental state of the Jinchuriki is no longer suitable for staying on the battlefield. He must be sent back to the village. The future third Kazekage frowned. So this war can't go on, right? Originally, the country of wind was at an advantage. But now not only is White Fang returning to the battlefield, but also a black knife that has never been heard before. On the contrary, the ultimate weapon of the Sand Village, the Jinchuriki, is seriously injured and has to be sent back to the village. He has no hope of winning anymore. Ibizo nodded with a heavy face and said, well, this is something that can't be helped. No. Suddenly, Chiyo's enraged screams pierced the ears of the Sand Shinobi like thunder. Turning her head and looking, she saw that the old woman's eyes were about to burst into flames and said, if I don't kill White Fang, we will never withdraw. Seeing his sister's furious face, Ibizo sighed again, sister. It's better to report to Kazekage-sama. The third Kazekage, who had not yet been promoted to the position of Kazekage, suggested. His seniority and position in Sunagakure are lower than Chiyo's by quite a bit and he dared not challenge Chiyo directly. But anyone with a discerning eye can see that the Sand Shinobi have no chance of winning. Chiyo is now basically using war resources for private grievances. At the rear, in Konoha's camp. Master Tatsuya, why did you want to retreat? It should be the best chance to end the war in one go. Akamichi Choza cried out to Tatsuya in confusion. Around Hyuga Hiashi, Yamanaka Inoichi, and many other representatives of the major clans also gathered together and asked Tatsuya their doubts in a puzzled way. But now, the title of Master Tatsuya has become common courtesy, and those who have met Tatsuya before no longer mock him with the phrase eternal genin. This is the reality. Once Shukaku runs away, 90% of you will not be able to stop its attack. Do you want to die? Tatsuya asked rhetorically. This. Akamichi Choza and others were speechless. Tsunade, standing at the corner of the camp, heard Tatsuya's words. Similar to Orochimaru on the battlefield before, she showed a devilish expression. The most disturbed was Sukomo. It's normal for Sukomo to have such concerns. When did you, Tatsuya, care about the life and death of Konoha shinobi? What the hell is this guy thinking? Tsunade muttered to herself in a low voice. Haha, let's wait and see. Orochimaru, on the other side, smiled strangely. This has always been the case since childhood for Tatsuya, he can always come up with strange new tricks. Master Tatsuya, that makes sense. Nara Shikaku touched his stubborn chin and beepized, you have already severed Jinchuki's connection with the tailed beast, and he will not stay on the battlefield anymore. Sand Shinobi's morale will definitely be reduced to the extreme. The situation is already bad for Sand Shinobi, and now they have lost the trump card of the Jinchuriki. I am afraid it will not be long before we receive Sand Shinobi's offer of a truce. What a joke. Nara Shikaku had just finished saying this when he shouted angrily, immediately attracting the attention of everyone present. Sarutobi Shinosuke's eyes were red, and he waved his arms and furiously said, our Sarutobi clan has lost so many lives, we must not just end the war like this. Rai is dead, I want the Sand Shinobi guys to pay the price. Tatsuya's heart moved. Sarutobi Shinosuke looks exactly like Chiyo on the other side. He was completely blinded by hatred. Mr. Shinosuke, you. Nara Shikaku, Yamanaka Inoichi, and others frowned. No matter how you look, there is no need for this war to go on. Continuing the war will only increase casualties. In their eyes, Sarutobi Shinosuke is acting out of grief because his lover and clan members died in this battle. But he wants to use their people to avenge them. However, considering the identity of the other party as the son of the Hokage, the heads of these great ninja clans didn't dare to challenge him directly. Shinosuke is right. However, the next jaw-dropping scene occurred. Tatsuya quickly walked to the side of Sarutobi Shinosuke, clenched his fists, filled with righteous indignation, and said, how can you spare the enemies of your own clan and the ones who killed the Hokage-sama's daughter-in-law? We must kill them all to honor the heroic spirits of the Sarutobi ninjas. For a moment, everyone present stared at Tatsuya in disbelief. What kind of operation is this? Tatsuya surprised everyone present by standing up to support Sarutobi Shinosuke's proposal to continue the war. It was you who retreated first on the battlefield, and now you're the one proposing to continue the fighting, Nara Shikaku questioned in his heart, raising an eyebrow in confusion. Shikaku exchanged glances with his two partners, Ino Shikacho, before finally standing up to speak. Master Tatsuya, is this appropriate? The current situation doesn't seem to warrant continuing the war, he said. After all, war meant death, and they didn't want to see more innocent lives lost, especially among their families and children. But Hokage-sama's clansmen and daughter-in-law died in battle. How can we not seek vengeance for them? Tatsuya asked, turning toward Sarutobi's new ally. Sarutobi Shinosuke, consumed by anger, didn't think about how Tatsuya, whom he had been at odds with before, was now speaking in his favor. Overwhelmed with emotion, he immediately shouted, that's right. Rai was my childhood sweetheart, and my father had arranged for her to be on the same team for me to marry her. If we don't avenge her, this war can't be stopped. Upon hearing these words, the faces of many ninja clan chiefs present darkened, and they felt a growing dissatisfaction with Sarutobi Shinosuke and the powerful backers behind him. Why should we sacrifice more lives for your personal vendetta? The members of the Sarutobi family are already dead, we shouldn't drag our people further into death, some murmured in disagreement. When did Konoha become the dictatorship of your Sarutobi clan? Others questioned. Despite the discontent, the third Hokage still held significant authority, allowing him to keep this group of people under control. Orochimaru, who had been silently observing from the corner, couldn't help but think, what an idiot. He's completely trapped in his emotions. Tatsuya found the situation amusing. The next plan is like this, he said, walking to the front of the map and pointing at the trail through the rain country on the map. Does everyone remember the second Kazekage assassination plan? He asked, drawing their attention to Sukomo and Sarutobi Shinosuke. The plan was supposed to succeed, but due to the hesitation of one of these two people, the other gave up the task, leading to its failure. If that plan had succeeded, why would we still be fighting this war? Tatsuya pondered aloud. As a military advisor, Shikaku vaguely guessed Tatsuya's intentions and tentatively asked, Master Tatsuya, do you intend to restart this task? Tatsuya interrupted, sliding his index finger from the coordinates of the camp to the rain country on the map, and then from the rain country to Sunagakur. We'll take a longer route, passing through the Rain Country, and then infiltrate the Wind Country to assassinate the second Kazekage Sanjay. Ryuga Hisashi, who was in awe, hesitated for a few seconds before asking, yes, but this mission has already failed once. Compared to the previous time when the task failed. This time second Kazekage is more vigilant and has built an iron wall around him. I'm afraid the difficulty is even higher this time. Don't worry, Master Shinosuke and I will take the lead this time, Tatsuya confidently said, I am better than my brother. Sukomo smiled bitterly and shook his head, but didn't say anything. You're shameless, isn't he? Claiming to be better than Konoha's White Fang. Everyone's perception of Tatsuya has refreshed once again. Though Tatsuya's performance on the battlefield today was undeniably Kage level, claiming to have surpassed the White Fang seemed like a bold statement. However, White Fang himself didn't refute it, so it must be true. Do I need to go as well? Sarutobi Shinosuke asked hesitantly. Of course, young Master Shinosuke, you are familiar with the environment from the previous mission. This time, I'll replace my incompetent brother and together we'll surely succeed, Tatsuya said kindly. Then, can he go instead of me? Sarutobi Shinosuke pointed to Sukomo, feeling a bit nervous for some reason. My brother and others will continue to attack the Sand Shinobi on the front lines to divert their attention. My brother's presence can easily draw the hatred of thousands of enemies, buying us valuable time. After we succeed, we can claim victory from both flanks, Tatsuya explained flawlessly. No matter how much Sarutobi Shinosuke thought about it, he couldn't refuse. Tatsuya's reasoning left no room for objections. Well, if there are no further objections, then it's decided. Everyone can go back and rest. We'll leave tomorrow, Tatsuya declared, waving to end the meeting. Despite Orochimaru being the frontline commander, everyone silently obeyed Tatsuya's order and left the tent. Strength truly is the determining factor in this world, as Uzumaki Naruto and Uchiha Sasuke, still genin in the finale, have proven. As dusk approached and evening drew near, a shadow stealthily entered Tsunade's personal tent. However, it wouldn't be accurate to say that the shadow slipped in. Everyone around could clearly see what was happening. Tatsuya walked in with his head held high and his chest puffed out. Everyone looked at Kato Dan, who witnessed the scene and couldn't help but feel a pang of pity. Over the past few years on the front line, it was no secret that Kato Dan had a deep crush on Tsunade, yet he remained unnoticed. The result, unfortunately, remained unchanged. Tatsuya kept his hands on Tsunade's slim waist and muttered, it seems to be thinner. No fat at all. Snapped after a few seconds, a crisp clap sounded. Tsunade slapped Tatsuya's hand away from her waist. She had been carelessly touched by this bastard last night and now he was even more serious, walking in straightforwardly. She knew exactly what he wanted to do. Seeing Tatsuya pretend to have a painful expression, though she knew he was faking it, Tsunade struggled for 2 seconds. She grabbed his hand and healed it with healing jutsu. Too serious if I leave it alone, I'm afraid it will be fine in a few seconds. You really want to do it? Tsunade asked abruptly. Now? In the barracks not suitable, right? Tatsuya said, feigning discomfort, but his other hand was honestly ready to untie the belt on his waist. Screw you. Tsunade kicked him directly. When are you going to stop with these lewd jokes? Twitching the hair scattered in front of her eyebrows, Tsunade didn't feel good. Seriously, you didn't ever grow up in all these years. Huh? I don't understand what you're talking about, Tatsuya looked puzzled. I don't bother to care about you, just do whatever you want. Tsunade pointed towards the door of the tent with an expression of get lost. Even if it cost her life, she wouldn't allow that kind of thing to happen with this bastard in the barracks. Alas, life is always unsatisfactory. There won't be time for any happy moments before she leaves. Really going to do it? Just as Tatsuya walked out of the camp with a look of loss, Orochimaru's voice abruptly reached his ears. You won't be eavesdropping here all the time? Tatsuya turned to face Orochimaru. Well, in fact, Orochimaru came over when he saw him with Tsunade. After all, Tatsuya won't let anyone deliberately eavesdrop on him. Despite his interactions with Tsunade, he perceives his surroundings in advance. Tatsuya-san, what do you think about life? I don't know what you're talking about. Tatsuya used the same response he had given Tsunade to deflect Orochimaru's question. Human life is too fragile. After leaving a philosophical remark, Orochimaru stopped saying much, turned his head, and left. Tatsuya, Shinosu-kun, after the failure of the last mission, the second Kazekage, will definitely strengthen the guards around you. It's better not to have a direct conflict with him. Sneak into the enemy camp and wait quietly for the chance to assassinate him. On the second day, at the entrance of Konoha camp, Sukomo reminded Tatsuya and Sarutobi Shinosuke, who were ready to set off. Tatsuya couldn't help rubbing the temple on the side of his head, secretly saying that my brother is really a political idiot. Tsunade could guess what he wanted to do. Even Orochimaru could guess what he wanted to do, but he had no doubt at all. Does he really think he brought Sarutobi Shinizuke to assassinate the second Kazekage? We are going. Tatsuya felt that if he continued to listen, he would lose his mind. After responding with a couple of sentences, he hurried to the country of rain with Sarutobi Shinizuke and then detoured into the country of wind. This time they chose a longer route and the journey that could be reached in 2 days and 2 nights would now take at least 1 more week. I hope they are okay, Sukomo said with worry on his face. One of them is certainly up to something, Tsunade interjected abruptly. What do you mean? Sukomo asked, puzzled, turning his head. Tsunade remained silent but responded with a weird smile. The country of rain was embroiled in the Second Ninja War, fighting against the country of fire, the country of wind, and the country of the earth. Despite the ongoing conflict, the country had not yet been completely destroyed, indicating that its military strength was not much weaker than that of the 5 major countries. Wow. The rainstorm seemed to never stop, pouring down over the land of the rain today. Tatsuya and Sarutobi Shinizuke witnessed countless corpses exposed in the wilderness due to the war as they progressed, never stopping along the way. Rain Shinobi Village, under the leadership of Hanzo the Salamander, has managed to fight against the 3 major countries of fire, wind, and earth successively without falling behind. Its military strength is not inferior to that of the 5 major countries, Sarutobi Shinizuke commented as he adjusted the forehead protector on his forehead and spoke proactively. Now that Hanzo has signed a truce with Konoha and the Suna, there should be no danger ahead before we enter the country of wind, he continued. The reason why Sarutobi Shinizuke chose to speak proactively was not just because he couldn't stay idle, similar to Naruto. It was primarily because, since they entered the country of rain, Tatsuya hadn't uttered a word to him. A strange sense of fear engulfed Sarutobi Shinizuke's heart like poison. Intense anxiety compelled him to take the initiative and address Tatsuya, saying, "Right, Hatake-san." He had shifted from calling Tatsuya Eternal Genin back to his last name. As the eldest son of Hokage, he was born with privilege, and it was inappropriate for him to call someone like Tatsuya by a nickname used by others like Shikaku. Are you talking to me? Finally, within 2 days of entering the country of rain, Tatsuya finally spoke. He turned around, slowly put down the hat on top of his head, and let the heavy rain pour on him. Tatsuya smiled lightly. Sorry, I just don't think there is any need to talk to someone who is going to die. Sorry, I just don't think there's any need to talk to someone who is going to die, Tatsuya said. Boom. As Tatsuya uttered those words, it seemed like the sky responded. A thunderous boom echoed, and a bolt of lightning cut through the dark clouds and heavy rain. The silver flash of lightning illuminated Tatsuya's face, revealing a smile mixed with murderous intent. Even more menacingly, the sword gleamed with a black light in his hand. The killing intent emanating from a Kage-level shinobi struck Sarutobi Shinizuke with intense fear, reminiscent of Sasuke encountering Orochimaru for the first time during the Chunin exams in the future. Sarutobi Shinizuke collapsed on the muddy ground, surrounded by puddles, gazing at Tatsuya, who was slowly drawing his sword, unable to believe what was happening. That killing intent was genuine. Why are you doing this? In an extreme panic, Sarutobi Shinizuke couldn't help but ask the question. Only worthy people deserve to talk to me. Since when does a scum have the right to question? Tatsuya laughed as he replied, his tone cold. What's more, since the last time you attempted the assassination of the Kazekage you failed, you were supposed to die at that time. But my brother abandoned the mission and saved you, but later on, didn't you also label my foolish brother as trash for saving you? Well, I'm just returning the favor. Whether it was born out of venting his family's frustration or the personal grievances between them, at this moment, Sarutobi Shinizuke was certain Tatsuya truly intended to kill him. Was this the reason he was so eager to be assigned a mission with him? Sarutobi Shinizuke inwardly cursed himself for being too naive. Consumed by grief over the death of his fiancée, he didn't even consider why Tatsuya had spoken for him at that time. Now, upon reflecting on the events that occurred on the battlefield that day, everything seemed peculiar. The battle between Tatsuya and Banpaku had originally been distant from the Sarutobi clan. Yet, somehow, it drew closer and closer. Ultimately, Sarutobi Rai and several members of the Sarutobi family died because of the wide area of sand ninjutsu. You wanted to kill me on the battlefield back then, Sarutobi Shinizuke cried out suddenly. He had a sudden realization. Tatsuya intentionally redirected the battlefield between himself and Banpaku toward the Sarutobi clan, using Banpaku's large-scale attack ninjutsu to kill him and the others. Tatsuya glanced at him for a second, not expecting Sarutobi Shinizuke to have this insight in his final moments, and he burst into laughter. It seems you're not as foolish as I thought, but it doesn't matter. In the end, you'll die at the hands of the second Kazekage from sand. I'll make sure to tell your father when I return. You're delusional. Sarutobi Shinizuke roared and quickly bit his finger. Faced with Tatsuya, Sarutobi Shinosuke had no chance of winning. Even the probability of escape was extremely low. In such a dire situation, there was only one trick that could potentially save him from certain death: the summoning jutsu. It was his father's trump card, known to have saved his life and his allies in previous wars. An INJA. Summoning. It's too slow. Ram, boar, monkey, bird, dog, the 5 seals needed to summon his contracted ape demon. Sarutobi Shinosuke managed to seal only 2 seals. In the next moment, he felt Tatsuya had completely drawn his sword, and the shining sword slash from the blade entirely obscured his vision. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his wrist. Sarutobi Shinosuke looked down, and to his horror, his hands weren't linked to his forearms. There was nothing but blood splattered wildly. Looking at the ground again, he saw his 2 palms, stained with blood, falling weakly into the mud. He didn't know how long it had been. The excruciating pain from his broken wrist overwhelmed Sarutobi Shinosuke. He collapsed to his knees, convulsing in agony. The violent roar mixed with muffled thunder echoed through the country that had never stopped crying. With only this strength, you could become Hirazen's right-hand man in the future. But that old man's own strength isn't great, so it's no wonder, Tatsuya thought with amusement, recalling the original description of Sarutobi Shinosuke. Although he strongly suspected that Sarutobi Shinosuke and his wife used connections to secure high-ranking positions in Anbu, Tatsuya couldn't help but find it funny. Don't think you can really escape justice. Sarutobi Shinosuke, who was kneeling on the ground, raised his head defiantly. His face was streaked with water, whether from the rain or his tears. His tightly clenched teeth had already bitten his lips, causing them to bleed, but he spoke with great pain. "Dad had long suspected your family. Do you think you can frame my death on second Kazekage? I know he would doubt me, but he absolutely wouldn't dare to act. Your father is highly politically minded, that's the only thing I recognize about him," Tatsuya retorted. As he spoke, Tatsuya slowly raised his knife, displaying a look of disdain. But he still has a weakness, a cowardly weakness. Not to mention that he has no evidence. Even if there were evidence, he wouldn't dare to do anything. But the swift motion, the sword light fell, and Sarutobi Shinosuke's head followed. Tatsuya didn't simply execute him with one clean cut. Instead, he chopped the body into dozens of pieces, resembling slicing potatoes. He then swept the pieces like one would sweep the floor, throwing them into the pile of corpses nearby. In the Kingdom of Rain, where the ground was littered with bodies, one more wouldn't be noticed. This was one of the main reasons why Tatsuya chose to carry out his plan in the Land of Rain. Second Kazekage died in the last few years of the Second Ninja War. It's not long, but just in case, I'll go there. Tatsuya never looked at the pile of potato chunks in the corpses nearby again and began to contemplate his next course of action. The original story took place approximately a few years later during the Third Ninja War, and it was triggered by the disappearance of the third Kazekage. Based on this inference, Shaman second Kazekage must have died within this time period. Let's proceed. Tatsuya is still very interested in facing puppet technique and the second user of the magnet style, the Kazekage. It's an opportunity to challenge himself and possibly elevate his abilities to a higher level. Tatsuya turned his eyes to the left. There were 4 individuals approaching. Similar to the criminals in Conan's world. Tatsuya, also a killer, didn't immediately leave because of the arrival of outsiders. Instead, he decided to wait in place. It wasn't because he had the same thought process as the criminals in Conan, but rather because he intended to eliminate any potential threats completely. However, upon seeing the specific individuals approaching, Tatsuya let go of the sword's handle. There was no need to deal with potential threats now. Because the person who approached was someone Tatsuya knew, Toad Sage Jiraiya, one of the Sanin. "Is it you, Tatsuya?" Jiraiya and Tatsuya stared at each other in surprise. Jiraiya recognized Tatsuya due to his iconic white hair, and after a moment of scrutiny, he called out Tatsuya's name. "I didn't expect to meet you here, Jiraiya." Tatsuya, the transmigrator, hadn't anticipated encountering Jiraiya in the Land of Rain. He recalled that Tsunade had mentioned it before. Jiraiya had followed the battle between the Rain Country and Hanzo, rather than rushing to the next battlefield with Tsunade and Orochimaru. Instead, he stayed in the Land of Rain to take care of the 3 orphans Yahiko, Conan, and Nagato. "Really? Plans can't always keep up with the changes," Tatsuya said with a shake of his head. Then, his gaze shifted toward Nagato in his childhood, especially focusing on the iconic red-haired bangs of the Uzumaki clan. It symbolized the immense power of the Rinnegan, making Nagato one of the top combatants in the world. Is it worth trying to extract it? Tatsuya couldn't help but have some evil thoughts. However, he had no desire to covet Rinnegan's abilities, nor did he want to force mismatched eyes into his body, sucking his vitality every time he uses them. Rinnegan was already on par with the capabilities given by the system, and its potential growth was unknown. Tatsuya just wished he didn't have to deal with the troubles caused by Rinnegan. But he quickly pushed these thoughts aside. After all, the current Nagato had nothing to do with it and there was no reason to gouge out someone's eyes. Why have you, who always lived in seclusion in the mountains and forests, appeared in the war-torn country of Rain? What's going on? Jiraiya asked, puzzled. I am going to assassinate second Kazekage, Tatsuya calmly revealed, causing shock to spread across the faces of the 4 teachers and apprentices in front of him. Assassinate second Kazekage. Jiraiya swallowed hard. Though he knew Tatsuya's true strength, the idea of such a terrifying task still sent shivers down his spine. I'll explain the specifics later, Tatsuya said, turning his attention back to the young trio. So these are the apprentices you adopted in the land of rain, Tatsuya said, ruffling Conan's hair affectionately. She was a confidant and had lived a difficult life in this war-torn country. Conan blinked with a slightly surprised expression, wondering why this person touched someone's head the first time they met. It felt a bit frivolous. Well, I'm here today to say goodbye to them. Now that they have the power to protect themselves in this war-torn country, I should return to Konoha, Jiraiya said, and the atmosphere became sad. All 3 of them lowered their heads, their voices tinged with sorrow. Teacher. Then come with me, Tatsuya said to Conan, not saying much about the 3 children who shared the same tragedy. There was little he could say, for he couldn't tell them not to trust a certain masked man who, after all, was still just a 6-year-old kid. Hatred will only lead to more hatred. It's wrong for you to do this. Conan suddenly raised her head and shouted at Tatsuya. What? Tatsuya looked down at the stubborn young girl and chuckled, then pinched her cheek. So naive, you'll easily be crushed by the world. Conan puffed up her cheeks, considering Tatsuya's words as those of a nasty man in her heart. Jiraiya, it's alright for you to believe in the words of your predecessor, but don't teach bad habits to kids, Tatsuya said, amused, turning to look at Jiraiya. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video guys, let me know in the comments section how was the story and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video, bye bye.